through Laura, because Laura and I lived next door to each other freshman year, and so Mark was always coming over to say hi.
We didn't know anybody else.
Because we did, right, but that's how you expanded your network of friends. So, and then also in that same entryway was the person who eventually became my roommate for 2 years, Sue Feldman Townsend. So Mark, Teter, Sue, and I, along with David Woods, who now lives in New Zealand, which is why he's not here, we all hung out together sophomore, junior, and senior year. And for Sue and me, Mark was the big brother who wasn't around. Sue actually had an older brother, but I don't have any brothers. And Mark and David were the big brothers that we didn't have here on campus to protect us. And the best story about that is that there was this pie throwing phase that people went through one spring in the dining halls. And one Sunday, Sue had gotten up and she did her hair and took a shower and wore pretty clothes and went to brunch. And someone threw a pie in her face. And it was a whipped cream pie or something like that. But
nevertheless, were a different time.
Yes, definitely ruined the whole thing. So anyway, so then Sue and I had stuff we had to do that afternoon, and we came back to the room at one point, and David and Mark were like waiting outside the door of our room, waiting for us to get back. And the reason was because they had somehow emptied our refrigerator, emptied their refrigerators of all the dead soda and everything in it, and filled this trash can, and went to the guy's room who'd thrown the pie and knocked on the door, and when he opened the door, just doused him with the stuff and then just ran forever. They had paper bags over their heads so that they could not be recognizable.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so they were there, the defenders and the protectors of us. And the reason Sue can't be here this weekend is that her daughter's engagement party is this weekend in Denver, so she couldn't come. So what did we do when we hung out? After lunch and dinner every day, and then late at night, right before we all went to bed, they would come to our room, and one year we played hearts, one year we played backgammon, another year we did the globe crossword puzzle, and then on the weekends sometimes we would play charades, because we had more time, in theory. And then also on Saturday nights we'd come over to your room, or somebody's room in Quincy House, and we would watch that never to be replicated again lineup of Saturday night TV shows, Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, MASH, and then what was then new, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And then we were drinking Tom Collins's because the drinking age was 18. Yes. All right, and then
please know
that. Still bothers me.
So to build on Laura's story, Mark was a person, he was brave, and he did have a lot of integrity. So he comped for the Crimson to be a film reviewer for the Crimson. And I think he wrote one review, which was published. I actually tried to find it, but the archives don't go back that far, apparently. And I don't know. Well, but I couldn't find it. I Googled his name, everything, I couldn't find it. Anyway. But it was cut short because he noticed that one of the reviews that had been published was basically plagiarized from a Pauline Kael review of the same film. I couldn't remember what movie it was, though. I can't remember.
Oh, it was the woman one. Gina Rollins, Cassavetes.
Woman Under the Influence.
Yes.
What is it?
Woman
Under the Influence. Thank you. Anyway, I'll have to put that in my memory bank now. And so that basically ended his comp for the Crimson, because even though the Crimson, very honorably published his letter to the editor explaining how this review was plagiarized, they were having none of having this guy around, right, who had called out one of their reviewers.
So
that was the end of that. And then the other summer, the other thing I remember about him is that one summer, the summer between junior and senior year, Mark was working here to work on his senior thesis about mastication with that.
What kind of animal was that?
Ferret.
A what?
It was a ferret.
It was a ferret?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I lived with that ferret for a summer. You can't forget the ferret.
Yeah,
we
didn't have to live
Okay.
He's really ahead of the curve.
He totally was with ferrets as
I
pets.
remember the ferret. I thought that he was experimenting on a different animal. All right, anyway.
Anyway, I had a more mundane job, recalculating medical school professors' pensions at the comptroller's office at Harvard. But Mark had this idea, he was so intrepid, that we should go to the Esplanade in the summer of '76 and go to the Pops concert. Well, little did we know that this was the beginning of, what has become a huge enterprise in Boston. And there were no cell phones in those days, so we had to take turns, leaving to call our families to tell them to be sure to watch for us on the television broadcast, and also to go to the bathroom, guard our little, 4 feet of space that we had managed to get. So he and I were always we have been part of history because of that experience of being there on July 4th, 1976. So then sophomore year, we lived you guys lived in Old Quincy, and you lived on the outside, and we lived on the outside of Lowell House, right across Plimpton Street from each other. So one night, I think it was a weekend night, I had just stepped out of the shower, it was early evening, and the phone rang. And as I was thinking about going to answer the phone, I realized I had left the shades up in the living room windows that I had to cross in front of to get to the phone. So I crawled across the floor and I answered the phone. And Mark was on the other end and he said, "Oh, you're home." I said, "Yes, I'm answering the phone." He said, "Well, I didn't see you come to the phone." I was like, thank goodness I had so I'm almost finished. So after college, everyone became busy with careers, graduate school, and scattered, and in our case, literally across the globe. I can't even count on both hands probably the number of countries in which David Woods has lived. And I think the last time I saw Mark was at the 15th reunion, where we all had dinner at the Italian restaurant that's where Lidl Seafood is now, in the Charles Hotel complex. And the 15th reunion book actually is the only book in which Mark actually wrote something. It was very brief, but it was the only time he wrote something where he talked about settling into Annapolis after his residency at Hopkins and living on a houseboat. And then he died 2 years before the 20th reunion. Ironically, the same month our son was born. I was home on maternity leave. It was just, a couple weeks after that Nelson was born that Laura called me to tell me that Mark had died. So I was so absorbed then that the full impact of his loss really didn't register for some time later. And I really was inspired by Laura's work to organize that memorial tribute to have for Janet Katz, to have the composition commissioned in her honor for the band. That it gave me the idea that we should do something for Mark, and I do feel a sense of peace that we have now done something to honor that friendship. He was really a big, important part of my college set of memories, and I wish that we had had more time, just like Laura said. And I thank really all of you for being part of those memories too, and most importantly for being here today on this occasion and for helping to make this possible. And so I wanted to end with a Pauline Kael quote. There's like two. One is that I'm sure that he would have shared my intense dislike for that movie Dances with Wolves, with Kevin Costner and everything like that. And the Pauline Kael quote about that film was, "Kevin Costner has feathers in his hair and feathers in his head. The Indians should have called him Plays with Camera." And then the other one is that movies are so really great art that if we cannot appreciate great trash, we have very little reason to be interested in them. And I think that that's just describes Mark's sense of sort of being engaged in the everyday and the ordinary and always just being around to be your friend.
Thank you. Anybody else?